Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Just an interesting sidelight. At the infamous Gay Girl in Syria blog, this shows how the color revolutions are done. It's a market of dupes on the internet. In this case, it turns out that the gay girl in Syria was really a man and living not in Syria but elsewhere. A 40-year-old American Middle East activist studying in Scotland, and dare I say, we'd like to know his connections to the intelligence community. Maybe he's a stringer. Maybe this is the sort of cyber phalanx that the CIA is assembling. The entire virtual world is full of fakes, right? U.S. Cyber Command deploys hundreds and hundreds of fake screen identities. Here's one of them. We're getting it. So the entire thing is one big mass of hokum and a market of dupes of colossal proportions. But let's now look at the Greek crisis. Papandreou, a representative of a family of British agents that goes back, I guess, to the Ottoman Empire, still in power. They couldn't get him out. This is amazing. He needs to go. The Second International, the socialist parties are basically a combination of the CIA and Soros. They are useless. The entire Second International, the Yellow International, as it was done, has indeed become a vehicle for social fascism under the guise of a more moderate sort of center-left alternative. The main issue going on in Greece is extortion, blackmail by the IMF under Lipsky and the European Union, the European Central Bank, Trichet, and the rest of them. They are attempting to make Greece into a terrible example. And the goal is now Greece has got to come up with a draconian genocidal austerity plan in order to get $17 billion in IMF emergency loans by early July to keep financing the unsustainable debt which Greece has. Now, let's look at the austerity plan. In other words, the blackmail is if you don't roll over and support, approve, implement the austerity plan, or adjustment program, as they like to call it, then you won't get the $17 billion and you will default. Naturally, I would say, don't even default. Go for a debt moratorium. We'll talk about that in a minute. Here's what the Greek adjustment austerity plan, again, genocidal austerity is the only way to put it. It is a plan to cut a total of 76 billion euros out of the flesh of Greece between now and 2015. So it's a 4-year plan for about 100 billion or more than 100 billion U.S. dollars of austerity. Now, immediately, 26 billion euros of spending cuts, firing government workers, fire 10% of all government workers each year for the next 4 years, either have a hiring freeze or slow hiring to a snail's pace. Go for temps, right? Get temps that don't get benefits and are not permanently employed and don't really have a job. They want to extend the work week for Greece from 37 hours per week to 40 hours per week. All of this for what? Because bankers, monsters met at Moness, Crespi, and Hard in Manhattan last February and talked about an attack on Greece. Soros Fund Management, Brigade Capital, Greenlight Capital. You can read the article that I wrote about it. Paulson and Company also coming in. So this is the one side, is 26 billion euros of spending cuts. And then we've got the criminal privatizations, the nomenclatura privatizations, I guess we can call them, because it'll only go to oligarchs. 50 billion euros to be gotten by essentially selling off the assets of the Greek state. In other words, the property of the Greek people. On the one hand, you're going to be giving up the rights that the Greek labor movement has been fighting for centuries, and on the other side, the accumulated property of the Greek people. Maybe they'll, hock the the Acropolis, right? Get rid of the Temple of Athena, sell that off to Walt Disney for tourist purposes. This is unspeakable vandalism, extortion, blackmail, and criminality. They want to privatize Athens Airport, privatize the casinos, privatize natural gas, privatize government buildings. Again, does that include the Parthenon? Privatize the Olympic Stadium that was built for 2004. You get the idea. Now, let me just put a parenthesis, right? Those of you who support Ron Paul and his plan to cut the U.S. federal budget by 50%, well, you should look. What's been done in Greece is not quite that bad. The Greek public spending has been cut by 9% last year, 2010, and 9% this year, 2011. Imagine what a 50% cut would mean. It would mean social chaos. It would mean civil war and unspeakable suffering, and certainly a lot of people would not survive. So the interesting news is the vultures, the hyenas, the asset strippers are already there. Steve Forbes, the geek candidate for president of the Republicans back in the 90s on various occasions, didn't get anywhere but spent a lot of money, pontificated about the superiority of the free market. This is his idea of the free market, that you go in there, the IMF extorts a privatization program with Lipsky after Dominique Strauss-Kahn, whatever he was, is eliminated with a CIA sting operation, and you go in there and loot the country by buying up that list of properties. Maybe Steve Forbes will buy the Parthenon for his private use. This is what they mean by free market. They mean robbery, theft, extortion, where their liberty turns into the license to loot the rest of the society. So criminal privatizations are planned to the tune of 50 billion euros. Now, it's clear what has to happen. Papandreou must go. Down with Papandreou. Get him out of there. After, a dozen general strikes? He's still there. I'm amazed every time I see him. Will nobody replace this guy with somebody else? Even if it's a reactionary, you get advantages because you then have a clear front. You line up your labor, your political forces, and others. You fight the reactionary, no austerity, no cuts, IMF get out, and so on down the line. But with Papandreou, the main enforcer of austerity is also the head of the PASOK Socialist Party, and you've got the unions tied to them, so you have anti-austerity demands that don't get to Papandreou. What they've gotten to so far is the finance minister, Papa Constantinou. So Papa Constantinou, the finance minister, he's attacked in the streets, right, that he should leave the planet. Fine, he should leave the planet. Now we have Venizelos, a new finance minister. This solves precisely nothing. Oh, Greeks, you must vote against austerity, and I'll tell you why. It is a physical impossibility. You will never pay this debt. It cannot be done. Physically cannot be done. Notice what happened. A year ago, Papandreou enacted a brutal genocidal austerity program. What happened? He comes back next year and he says it wasn't enough. That's the secret of austerity. It's never enough because you have austerity now. You cut the budget this year. You're going to diminish economic activity. You're going to diminish tax receipts. That's exactly what they found, that their tax receipts are going down. No surprise. You're cutting into the only economic activity that there is, which is government economic activity. You don't want to cut that because of an ideological obsession with the Washington consensus and that a government job is not a real job. A government job is a real job, and if it's the only job to be found, you damn well better keep it. So no to austerity. It doesn't work. It kills. It's immoral. It's unethical. It violates epikeia. Hey, Greeks, how about epikeia? Equity. You can't ask people to suffer because of the crimes of bankers. That violates epikeia. So it's no surprise that they're coming back and demanding more. The answer to all of this is immediate unconditional debt moratorium. Brazil has done it. Argentina has done it. Mexico has done it. The great Greek nation has now got to come forward and say, debt moratorium, we'll negotiate the possible future payment of some part of this, but that will be a political negotiation, and we will not be put into receivership by Olli Rehn of the European Union or Lipsky of the IMF. And the bondholders not only take a haircut, they're going to have to negotiate as an equal adversary to the Greek nation, because the CDS, the credit default swaps from Goldman Sachs, are at the root of this entire thing. And they did it. It's all artificial. So we'll see you next week on World Crisis Radio.